This Aries full moon is bringing something to the surface that we have been missing or that we have been maybe pretending not to see. And now that we're in the right and wrong judgment of Libra, we are forced to acknowledge it and let it go. Greetings, alchemists. Welcome back to my channel, Hidden Alchemy by Sade. My name is Sade. If it's your first time here, welcome. And if not, welcome back. Always great pleasure for me to do these astrology videos to let y'all know what is going on in the stars and how you can take that energy and make it work for your greatest good. So if you're interested in seeing where this full moon is taking shape in your chart, feel free to reach out to me on my website, hiddenalchemybysade.com, or just send me an email at info@hiddenalchemybysade.com, and we can schedule your chart reading. Now let's go ahead and dive into this full moon we have in the sign of Aries. Well, first of all, we have made it out of eclipse season. So congratulations for everyone, for all of my Virgos, all of my Pisces folks out there. We've made it out of eclipse season, and now we can start to implement with these new full moons and new moons the energy that we have been feeling from eclipse season. Now we can start to implement the energy and take action. And that's exactly what we're dealing with when we're dealing with Aries. Aries is the sign of the initiator of action on the personal I am level. Aries is masculine in its nature. It is ruled by Mars, and it is the first sign. So it's the sign of the I, identity. Now, the beautiful thing about this full moon in Aries is we have had a taste of both Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries. So my folks who are Aries stelliums, or Aries dominant folks, this year has really been a year of setback and internal transformation in ways that you probably can't put into too many words, because Neptune, wherever Neptune goes, it likes to dissolve. Wherever Saturn goes, it likes to strengthen. So with just a taste, we've only had it in about 1 or 2 degrees of Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries. The Aries area of your chart has been going through a slow dissolving and a new rebuild. And if you've had the opportunity to get quiet, you'll be able to see and feel what is dissolving in order for you to rebuild the Aries energy in a new way. And so with this full moon, a full moon is when the moon is at its peak, it is the brightest, meaning that it sheds light on an area of our chart that has either reached a climax that we need to celebrate because we have finished and completed, or it needs to be let go. And in this situation, because the full moon is in the sign of Aries, having Neptune and Saturn there, this full moon can really shed light on an area that has been hidden from us, because Neptune is still currently there. And even when Neptune goes into the 29th degree of Pisces, it's only going to harbor at 29 degrees Pisces for a final letting go while still shadowing on that degree of Aries, that 0 degree of Aries. So this full moon, even though it's not an exact conjunction with Neptune, is really shedding light on something that you might not have wanted to let go of, either pertaining to your identity in some way, shape, or form. But the full moon is like, okay, we've reached a climax. We've reached the top. I'm showing you information. And because the sun is in Libra, it is time to take the best balanced, practical action about this. And what I love about this full moon, especially if you use it for its advantage, right? It is in Aries. So there is an inclining to want to impulsively act. But if you've been paying attention to Saturn and Neptune being in that sign this year, you've probably realized that when you've acted on impulse, you've probably hurt yourself more than you thought you would, because that's what Saturn is going to do within Aries, right? Saturn in Aries is going to really force you to stop impulsively acting and to instead take a moment. Saturn is feminine, Neptune is feminine. Take a moment and sit in the feminine of what you feel, and then decide how to practically go about it in the most courageous and confident way. So Saturn is not going to get rid of your courage and your confidence in Aries, right? It's just going to slow it down. So this full moon is going to bring something up that might get you upset. But if you've been paying attention, it's not something that you're fully unaware of. It's just something that you've probably just missed, just overlooked, kept passing it by. Neptune kept hiding it. Now the full moon is like, no, this is coming up. Okay? And thankfully, the sun, which the sun loves to be in Aries, the sun is exalted in Aries. The sun is in Libra. So it's like, okay, we're feeling this, but we have to keep in mind that how we act is not only a reflection of who we are, but it also bounces back and affects our relationships. So we have to move, right? Libra is about we. We have to move in a way that is going to please the self and also savor a contract, savor a partnership, savor a relationship, right? And because Saturn and Neptune is still vibrating, okay, it's not done in Aries. How we act can have really big repercussions for the future. Why? Because Saturn is all about karma. Saturn is like, do you remember 5 years ago when you did that? Now I'm back to rebalance the balance beams. Saturn is exalted in Libra. So now Saturn is like, I'm back to balance out the slate from what you did in the previous years. So this full moon is important because when Saturn comes back into Aries, which it will be there by the new year, by January, February, whatever action you have taken, if it's impulsive, if it burns a bridge, if it hurts someone, whatever action you have taken, Saturn, you're going to have to pay back in some way, shape, or form. So it is in all of our best interest to take the Libran energy into account when we're dealing with this full moon in Aries. And ways that you can do this is by talk therapy. Okay, if that is something that you partake in, talk therapy, talk things out with a person who is not in the situation, talk things out with a friend, talk things out with a family. Another great way with the full moon in Aries is to act things out. Get yourself into physical activity, whether that be running, jogging, swimming. Swimming will be great because it's going to add that water element as you're still using your entire body. Okay, exhaust yourself physically before impulsively acting on something that you just need a little bit more time to practically think about. And remind yourself, especially with Aries energy, it is fire. When we're dealing with a full moon, it's an internalization of that energy. Remind yourself that you're going to take care of it, you're going to handle it. It just might not need to be handled right now. We just might need to feel the fire rise and then give it a few days for it to settle. And then we can move from the Libran side, which makes everybody happy. Okay. So that's all I have for this lovely full moon in Aries that we have happening on October 7th. Feel free to let me know how you are feeling this full moon energy depending on when you're listening to this. And as always, feel free to reach out if you want to know where this is showing up in your chart and how you can make the most of this energy. All right, everyone, I will see you for our next video.